Woke, woke, woke. How much of this is backed by China? And what is China's ultimate goal? Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. In the 20th century, the Soviet Union directed its agents to subvert America by dumbing down education, by turning peaceful protests violent, and adding fuel to already divisive issues like the Vietnam War. In the 21st century, the Chinese Communist Party has taken up the mantle. On one hand, they're supporting things we in America might call a progressive agenda or woke. On the other hand, they pretend to be based, like when they released the popular video game Black Myth Wukong and demanded that content creators don't promote feminism. It might seem like that makes no sense. Why support both sides? Well, it's because their purpose is something else entirely. Matt, Shelley, and I sat down to talk about this with Dr. James Lindsay. He's an author, political commentator, and founder of the website and podcast New Discourses. And he joined us on the latest episode of our China Unscripted podcast.
I think you guys saw the other day on Twitter that for whatever reason, a Chinese bot, troll, whatever it is, definitely a pro-China account, started putting out pro-woke right stuff. And then I called the account out on putting out pro, I was like, oh my God, this, blatantly pro-China account is putting out pro-woke right. So the account is like saying all this pro-woke right stuff. And so what I do is I go over and look at its bio and it's like, I am friend to China with a Chinese flag. Like China is great. And then I'm like, why is this woke right account pushing China? Why is this pro-China account pushing woke right? So I say that and he's like, 5 reasons. Number 1, China is pro-family. Number 2, China doesn't do cuck left-wing stuff, and it's like written like a Chinese to English. So the Chinese, why do I bring that up? Because that's one dude on Twitter, one troll account on Twitter, right? One propaganda account. I really shouldn't call it a troll. It's a propaganda account from the Chinese government. What does that signal? That signals that the Chinese have an interest in running these influence operations and have had this interest. Now you can combine that with the fact, so that's one guy on Twitter or one bot account or whatever it is, one troll account, probably some dude in prison trying to work off his sentence in China, actually. Because that's how cool the CCP is. So, and that's obviously sarcasm on the word cool. They're evil. So, What does that signal? Well, the Chinese have a $16 billion a year military budget to do influence campaigns on Western countries and English-speaking countries. $16 billion a year, primarily the United States of America. So if you think that there's just one of those accounts, you're out of your mind. They're all over the place. So the Chinese basically have figured out, the CCP has figured out how to pour gasoline on all of this. Now, the question is how much of this is Maoism? Well, some. These are Maoist techniques that they're using to kind of divide the population. There's the right side of the issue, wrong side of the issue, and the only valid people are on the right side of the issue, and everybody else is like they're trash. They don't have a soul. That was actually a Mao quote, to have the wrong political orientations, like not having a soul. We do the whole politics of compliance, divide and conquer game that the Maoists did. So these are Maoist techniques, but the fact of the matter is that there is an overarching goal as well. And this is going to play on both sides. That overarching goal is that the system you see in China, which I will refer to henceforth as the China model, which is derived from not Mao Zedong thought, but Deng Xiaoping theory. So Deng Xiaoping wasn't the immediate successor, but the ultimate successor to Mao after he died in the 70s. And he had a completely different model, which literally hybridized communism and fascism in order to have productivity in China be unleashed. And that's the model that he helped get built out with Henry Kissinger, as it turns out, and David Rockefeller and lots of bad Americans. But this model has become it was beta tested in China following Mao's death with the intention of making it the model for the whole world. Now, we copy this with our ESG proposals. So what you'll find is that these fellas on the woke right are always talking about stupid cultural issues and wanting to clamp down on power to have stupid cultural agendas. But they don't talk about ESG. They don't actually talk about the real problems that are actually causing this. ESG was developed at the United Nations, was picked up in conjunction with the World Economic Forum, and obviously BlackRock has become the point runner on that, with also Vanguard, State Street, and the other huge passive investment firms. And what they are doing is forcing the Chinese economic model onto the West. But they're doing so in a way that actually hamstrings the West in its ability to compete with China, while advantaging China and actually pouring money into China. So we have these woke right guys running around blathering about cultural issues that mostly would go away if we just turn the propaganda machine off. In other words, repeal the Smith Modernization Act. They're running around blathering about these cultural issues as though that's the root of the problem, when the root of the problem is actually that there's a CCP, UN, World Economic Forum alliance to try to destroy our freaking country. It's a completely different problem. And the goal is to install the Chinese system throughout the world and also to crash the Western model. And who's going to rise through that? BRICS. And which trolls are the ones that are out on the internet defending the woke right stuff? BRICS trolls. It's almost all BRICS stuff. It's almost all pro-BRICS. Well, BRICS is funny because the Chinese aren't stupid. They're the most conniving people on the planet. The CCP people are awfully strategic. They're cunning like Mao was cunning. Do you think Russia is going to be allowed to come out on top in BRICS? No, BRICS breaks the West. And then once the West, through breaking the US dollar, and once the West is broken, China betrays every one of them and becomes the global hegemon. This is actually a very, very simple model to see how it's going to work.
It won't be Brazil?
Yeah, right. Yeah, South Africa maybe. Maybe South Africa is going to like run the world. Or India. Yeah, right. I wonder which country is actually, I mean, there would be a showdown between China and Russia, but the Chinese are more numerous. The Chinese are more advanced. The Chinese have a far, far bigger economy. That's not really that tricky to see how that goes unless it just goes to nuclear war, in which case, game over. So not a pretty picture here, right? And those are the trolls supporting the woke right. And the goal is to install this Chinese system that the woke right don't even oppose, and they distract us from dealing with by blathering on about whether or not people have like strong enough eschatological views about Christianity in the right way. It's like, holy crap, what are you doing? What are we doing? Why is this such a huge issue?
And it's not just like these troll accounts on Twitter. I think a great example of this is Black Myth Wukong, the video game made in China funded by Tencent, lots of state connections there. And they pushed that. And you had so many people online saying this message that, oh, this game isn't woke. This game, like they put out a message saying, don't talk about feminism when you're playing this game. And it just feeds into this anti-woke left messaging. And suddenly people are like, hey, at least China isn't, drag queen story hour.
Oh, I see those arguments all the time. I see them pro-Russia and I see them pro-China. And then we come back to the crux of that, BRICS, right? So I'm watching like right-wing accounts on Instagram, like big influencers on Instagram with hundreds of thousands, which is a lot on Instagram, hundreds of thousands of followers, posting videos of like Russian women talking about how the state pays all of their bills. The state pays, they 3 years or 5 years or 3 years, I think, of full maternity leave, and how the state pays for it. The state pays you to have children. The state does this. The state does that. The state does this. And I'm like, that's family-friendly socialism. Why are you sharing pro-Russian socialist propaganda to an American-based conservative audience that's appealing to this like pro-natalist view that goes against the left's anti-natalist view? Like, holy crap, what is going on, right? So that's blatant Russian propaganda that I'm seeing almost every day if I open my freaking Instagram. I don't see as much of that specifically on Twitter, but I see tons of pro-Putin stuff. I see tons of pro-Russia stuff. People are not as eager to be pro-China explicitly, but they will jump in and say things like what you said, that at least they are, against the woke left. At least they understand that the woke left is a problem. And it's like, gentlemen, they are playing you. They are playing you. That is called playing both ends against the middle. That is an old tactic. And they are playing you hard. And so, yeah, this is, I don't know how much of this is propped up by Chinese influence money, but I would best bet it's a fair amount. I know that there are American funders. I am virtually certain there are Russian funders. Given how much of it's anti-Jew, I would be shocked if there are not Qatari funders and other Middle Eastern funders. This stinks of gigantic foreign influence op to split the right at an extremely important and also very vulnerable moment, given we all know they're going to make the Trump administration as hard for Trump as possible if they can't create domestic crises, they're going to create world crises. So he's constantly busy, can't deliver on his domestic agenda. And meanwhile, we have this problem going on.
That was just one piece of our almost 2-hour-long interview with Dr. James Lindsay. We've made the whole thing available to our premium subscribers on ChinaUncensored.tv. This new website has full-length interviews, premium episodes of China Uncensored, live streams, and much, much more. So click the link below to check it out. I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.